Rated R.
Coming soon to an America near you. No, seriously, you don't think this administration is going to try to make the purge a reality? I'm actually kind of surprised we aren't doing that yet, but maybe that's what's going on in Minnesota right now. But anyway, getting off of real life here. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 4 films that make up July 18th, 2014, and we have a couple of surprises, couple of disappointments, and yeah, they're dispersed all throughout this episode here. So let's begin with the biggest of the new releases, which is of course The Purge: Anarchy. In it, you have a couple played by Zach Gilford and Keely Sanchez who are driving home to their kids when their car runs out of gas just as the purge commences. Meanwhile, you have a police sergeant played by Frank Grillo who goes out into the streets to get revenge on the man who killed his son, and a mother, Carmody Jogo, and daughter, Zoe Soul, running from their home after assailants destroy it. The 5 people meet up as they attempt to survive the night in Los Angeles. And like I said, the first Purge movie is kind of a mixed bag overall. Some people like it, some people hate it. I thought it was actually pretty okay. I mean, I like the idea of it, but, you know, the whole thing about it was that a couple things. One, the acting's good, but, you know, this whole thing could have been prevented if this one kid didn't let this one guy in the house. And honestly, the film could have also had a better plot to work with and also kind of explain more of why the Purge is supposed to do what it does. But luckily, this movie really does fix all that, and I'll get to that in just a second here. Honestly, the vines that people were making for this movie were much better than the actual movie itself. For those of you youngsters out there that don't know what the Vine is, just imagine TikTok before it was TikTok. I mean, it was pretty much that, except Vine, I think, was much funnier, even though most of us are on TikTok right now, but I would rather have Vine than TikTok, in my personal opinion. But the sequel, there's a sense that there's more going into this film than the first film is, and yeah, it delivers on those promises, and at some points, the movie can legitimately be terrifying. I mean, Frank Grillo, who we just seen in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, gets his chance to shine as a leading actor in this, and I thought he did a pretty good job in this, as does the other 4 people he works with. The action scenes are really good, and the sense of fear of getting killed during this 12-hour period is definitely there. What it probably wasn't there the first time around is because we're mostly spending the time inside of this one house instead of going out in the open and seeing what everybody else is going through in this situation here. And I'm glad they didn't take the cheap way out of this whole thing. I like the fact that they didn't just redo the first film. They added to the story. They created an explanation for why the Purge is supposed to do what it does and how people can take that in extreme levels. They create these new scary elements to the world. You see it in the trailer. The best aspect of that is when you have these 5 people getting kidnapped and being sold off to these upper-class purgers. It's such a nicely shot scene that is handled creepily well. The tensions are much scarier than the trailers before had promised you. I mean, this film overall is a much better movie than the previous movie in general here, but it still doesn't have enough of an edge to really make me say it's even better than the first movie. It's a much stronger movie than the first movie is. It's a better movie, but I definitely think that this one has a little bit more of a flaw to it overall, but there's definitely a lot more to it going for it, like the whole idea of the expansion of why the Purge is around here and what it's supposed to actually be doing here. It does have a lot going for it. It definitely shows that there's a lot more elements being brought to the table here, and the fact that, you know, we're taking it out of the house, we're making it much bigger than it needs to be, and we're showing you the scare factor of being out during this terrifying situation in general, and it's very well done overall. I mean, they expand on this universe very, very well. It does show off what this series could eventually become down the road, which eventually will become down the road. It's definitely a better movie than the first film is. I think it does a better job of explaining why the Purge is doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's just a good movie, man. It's a really good film. It's definitely better than the first movie overall. Not perfect yet, but we're getting there. We're going to get there within the next couple of movies, but yeah, overall, terrific film. Absolutely terrific. Definitely a lot better than the first movie was. Speaking of movies that were better than the first film was, here's one of the big surprises of the summer. Who would have guessed that a sequel to Planes would be as good as it was?
Disney's Planes, Fire and Rescue, in 3D July 18th, rated PG.
Yeah, Planes, Fire, and Rescue was actually a pretty damn good movie. It was actually one of the big surprises of the summer in general. It was a movie that, you know, it's coming off of a first film that was basically just a cash-in for the Cars franchise. It was originally supposed to be a direct-to-video movie, and then somehow got blown up for the big screen, and it just didn't work overall. This one, however, is a completely different animal altogether. This is the one where you could tell they put the effort into it, not just in the animation, but the storytelling, and actually feels more like a Pixar movie than the first film did. So you have Dusty Crophopper, once again played by Dane Cook, who is now learning that his engine is damaged and he may never race again. So he has to shift gears and is launched into the world of wildlife air attacks. He joins forces with a veteran fire and rescue helicopter voiced by Ed Harris and his air attack team, including Little Dipper voiced by Julie Bowen, Windlifter, Wes Studi, Cabby, Dale Dye, and a lively bunch of brave all-terrain vehicles known as the Smoke Jumpers. Regina King, Corey English, Brian Cal, and Danny Pardo, Matt Jones, and together the fearless team battle a massive wildfire, and Dusty learns what it takes to become a true hero. Yeah, this one is surprisingly really good. I was actually really impressed on how this movie was one of those big surprises I did not see coming a mile away. Yeah, you get terrible puns here and there, like the whole there's a line in the trailer where these two cars are trying to pick this car up, and she goes like, "Oh, pickup trucks," and like stuff like that. Between that there are very few and far between. Sometimes you do get a good joke here and there. Like there's a good joke. I think this was the one that actually had it in this where. Like, there's a part of the movie where one of the cars goes, "She left me for a hybrid." Like, that's a good, like, that's an example of a joke where it actually does kind of work in here. And yeah, I think the sequel does a better job because there's at least a message and a point to it being there that they're trying to get across in general. And I thought they did a pretty good job of it. I think what happened is that in between films, someone on the creative team looked at the first film and said, "Look, if we're going to do another film, let's not insult the intelligence of our audience and do something unique and actually maybe teach a lesson or two." Because honestly, that's what it feels like when you look at this movie. And the voice actors are very good here. Once again, Dane Cook is really good as Dusty, and I liked him a lot in the first movie in general here. He's not bad in this. I mean, I guess that's what we need to do with people who get on our nerves. Just put them in a recording studio and just let their voices do the acting. I mean, look at what it did for Jason Biggs on the Ninja Turtles TV show of the 2010s. I mean, it turned him into a pretty decent actor overall. Julie Bowen, Stacy Keach, Ed Harris do a lot of good job with the voices in general here. There's some stunt casting here and there, but it's not unnecessary or annoying, really. And that's really kind of how I feel about the movie in general here. It's not annoying, it's not unnecessary. There is actually something of merit here. It's a movie that's made strictly for kids and regular adults like myself who probably scoff at this and go like, "I'm too sophisticated for a movie like this." But for kids, though, it's a good movie. It's definitely an upgrade over the first movie. It felt like more of an effort being put into it. I mean, I think kids would enjoy this, and I don't think adults would be really offended by it overall if they showed their kids this. I mean, if they had already seen How to Train Your Dragon 2, which came out early in the summer, this would probably be a fine alternative for them to see But yeah, if you're going to show them one or the other, just show them How to Train Your Dragon first, and then maybe if they're interested in Planes, Fire, Rescue, definitely show them that. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely a better movie than the first film, and that's more you can ask for a film like this, so take that for what you will. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to easily the worst movie of the entire week. And easily the worst movie Cameron Diaz will make in 2014. Yes, suck at other women and anti-haters. Sex Tape is the bottom of the barrel for her and Jason Segel.
That's the length of the movie Lincoln. You did the full Lincoln.
Sex Tape.
Lincoln jokes, because heaven forbid that Steven Spielberg's Lincoln will still be relevant in 2014 because of how long the movie is. And it's just like, if you're gonna do that joke, do it with something that came out not too long, not something that came out not too long ago. Do something like, you could have done the Lord of the Rings or the Harry Potter, because that would have made a whole lot more sense. With this, it's literally date stamping the movie before the movie even is out. And that's one of the many problems of this movie. Because, yeah, like I said, this movie is awful. So you have Jason Segel and Cameron Diaz reuniting again for the first time since Bad Teacher as a couple who get together. Their romantic connection is intense, but 10 years and 2-year kids later, their flame of love needs a spark. So to kick things up a notch, they decide why not to make a video of themselves trying out each position in the Joy of Sex book in one marathon 3-hour session. It seems like a great idea until they discover that their most private video is no longer private. With their reputations on the line, they know they're just one click away from being laid bare to the world. But as to their race to reclaim the video leads them to a night they'll never forget, they'll find that the video will expose even more than they bargained for. I mean, this movie in particular is just... this is a mess, man. This movie beat me down when I saw it. I mean, I don't like it, and yet I don't hate it at the same time. It's not a bad movie on the levels of some of the other bad films I had to sit through, and one we're going to get to next week. Like, I think, like, movies like That Awkward Moment, Transcendence, and the film we'll get to next week are much worse, but with this, you expect so much more from it because of who's involved in it. And the fact that it's a lot of the same people that made Bad Teacher, which was a really funny summer comedy that came out 3 years ago. And we're getting to the point where raunchy R-rated comedies really are not the norm anymore. I mean, we get one every year that will break out big time, but yeah, this was getting to a point where we're not there yet, but we're getting to a point where the raunchy R-rated comedy was kind of dying out at this point. And I mean, to the movie's credit, Cameron Diaz and Jason Segel aren't bad in this. They have good chemistry together, as they showed in Bad Teacher, and that's really the only good thing I could say about the movie, is that the chemistry is very good between them. They just need a better script to work with here, because this movie is just... The biggest flaw of this movie is that it's just a lame movie. The plot definitely has some potential for comedy gold, and the film really doesn't do anything with it. The story is really not that intriguing whatsoever. It's just, here's an R-rated comedy that takes the easy way out and fails because of that. There's a stupid subplot where Rob Corddry's son wants $25,000 from Jason Segel for the tape, and there's not one point in this film before that showed this kid had anything against him. So where did that even come from? Why? Because Jason Segel had the Michael Jordan, LeBron James argument in Bad Teacher? Was that why we're doing this? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever. And another problem with the movie is that for a raunchy comedy called Sex Tape, there's almost nothing raunchy about this movie. I mean, yeah, you get to see Cameron Diaz's ass every once in a while, but there's no boobs in here. There's not even that many scenes of them doing the positions in the video until the very end, which is basically a rip-off to the end of The Hangover. Like, it's literally done in pictures, just like the end of The Hangover does. But Bad Teacher had much more raunchier elements to it than this movie does. And another thing that's missing is the comedy. There's not one point in this movie where I laughed at all. There were so many points where I wanted to scream out, where's the fucking comedy at? Where's the joke? And really, the biggest problem with the movie, and this is what I hate about comedies, the bad comedies, is that the two main characters are freaking idiots. Because not only do they handle this entire situation extremely poorly, but they just don't think before they act. So Jason Segel's first thing that he does is that he's supposed to know about how this app he uses works, and yet he doesn't know how to get rid of the videos he has on this app. It's like, it's not hard to delete something off of an app, and the fact that they went to this insane level to go to this place where the video is at and just destroy everything to get rid of this app for no reason except for have a plot that's just so stupid. It's just like, it felt like the people who wrote The Internship wrote this movie. You know, these old people who try to be hip with the kids and all that, and just like, you fail miserably at it, and it shows in here. But the cherry on top of what made me really mad about this movie, what made me really hate it the most. So there's a part in the movie where they have to go to the YouPorn headquarters to sneak in and make sure the tape doesn't get uploaded by destroying the servers, which would be fine except for one tiny little problem. You brought your damn kids with you. You cannot be this stupid to bring your kids with you on not only an illegal crime, which could force you to lose your kids, by the way, but you're also dragging them to a place that houses pornographic video clips. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you out of your mind? These two are idiots. You make Jim from American Pie look normal. In fact, Jim from American Pie could have easily beat the crap out of these two for how stupid they are. They should have just called him before, because he found a way to get that video he did in the first American Pie off the internet with no problem whatsoever. Diaz and Segel, however, go to these insanely stupid levels to make sure that this shouldn't be this hard. Really damn difficult. Even the guy who runs the company, played by Jack Black, by the way, it says that, hey, you could have just done this and we could have taken the video down for you. It's just like, yeah. You know why they didn't do it? Because then you wouldn't have a movie, which is probably a good thing, because, yeah, this movie is really just an unbelievable mess of a film. Like, it's a film that, the more I think about it, it is probably one of the worst movies I saw that year, and I think it is one of the worst films I saw that year. For a film that's 94 minutes long, like, this just feels like vapor. It just goes in and comes out. It does not really leave an effect on you, except the fact that this movie in particular really does not have anything of merit to it whatsoever. Like, I mean, I think it's a bad movie. It's a lame boring, lackluster movie with no creativity or thought put into it whatsoever. It's a film that is just such a mess. And yeah, like I said, this is the bottom of the barrel for Cameron Diaz in 2014. The other woman I thought was funny, and I like Annie. We'll get to Annie later on in the year. I'm one of the few people that actually likes that movie, but again, we'll touch on that at the end of the year. But yeah, movies like this, Sex Tape, really make you realize why Cameron Diaz probably retired, because if he's going to keep getting handed scripts like this, I wouldn't have blamed him for retiring after that. But yeah, this made The Sweetest Thing look like a better movie. And that movie was bad too, but The Sweetest Thing was at least trying to be funny. And it did with some of its odd things that they decided to put in there. I mean, it's not a good movie by any means necessary, but it certainly runs circles around this pile of garbage here. No question about it. This is one of the worst movies of the year. Sex Tape, just an unmitigated disaster. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to one last bit of disappointment. Not a bad movie like Sex Tape, but just a more underwhelming movie. Zach Braff's directorial follow-up to Garden State coming 10 years later. This is Wish I Was Here.
Welcome to Aston Martin.
It's really about what it sounds like when you floor it.
There will be no flooring it.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Wish I Was Here. Rated R.
Couldn't you have just made a movie about JD and Turk going on their wild adventures? Because, yeah, Zach Braff and Donald Faison clearly deserve to have a much better movie than this. I mean, you could literally make this the Scrubs movie and just have it be the continuing adventures of JD and Turk. And really, I think you would have had a much better movie than this. Because, yeah, boy, talk about one of the biggest disappointments I've seen in a long, long time. Especially considering how much I loved Zach Braff's first directorial effort. But yeah, this one is very underwhelming. So you have Braff playing Aiden Bloom, who's a struggling actor, father and husband, who's at 35 years old, still trying to find his identity, a purpose for his life. He winds up trying to homeschool his 2 children when his father can no longer afford to pay for private education, and the only available public school is on its last legs. Though teaching them about their life his way, Aiden gradually discovers some of the parts of himself he couldn't find. So really, what's the biggest problem with the movie in general? Well, before I even get to that, it is a fascinating story about what happened with this movie in general, because Zach Braff basically looked at what happened with the Veronica Mars Kickstarter and basically said, you know, hey, if Veronica Mars can work successfully with a Kickstarter, why can't I do it with my movie? And so he put a Kickstarter together. He wanted to make $2 million to boost the project, and so he ended up getting over $3 million. And even the actress herself, Joey King, who stars in this movie, also donated money before she was even attached to a cast member. But people actually got criticized this because of the fact that $3 million of the $5 million budget came from crowdfunding, and then the company that produced the film, Worldview Entertainment, stepped in to up the budget to $5 million, and it said that the unconventional funding model meant that crowdfunding supporters were promised bonuses for their pledges, yet film financier Worldview Entertainment stood to make a financial return on its investment. Braff stated that he believes the negativity responded to the movie's crowdfunding campaign contributed to the movie's box office failure. I don't think it really was that in general, because neither this nor Veronica Mars were the groundbreaking hits that I think they were expecting them to be, but I mean, to the movie's credit, it's not a bad movie. It's not a bad film at all. It's just kind of an underwhelming film. Now, I really loved Garden State. I think that it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. It's a movie that is so unique and so genuinely interesting from a guy who before that was mostly known for being, you know, the wacky JD on Scrubs. But, you know, that movie gave him a chance to expand his range as an actor in general, and it worked very well. This one, I think, almost works, except the fact that it kind of feels underwhelming overall, despite all the good people involved in this, not just Braff and Faison and King, but Kate Hudson, Josh Gad, Jim Parsons, Mandy Patinkin, Ashley Greene. This was one of the last movies James Avery, Uncle Phil, was in before he died in 2013. I thought he died later on, but no, he died in 2013. Yeah, this is one of the last things he was involved in, and so there is a lot of good people involved in the movie here, and the idea, I think, is very good. The intentions are good, but it's one of those movies that has been its biggest problem overall is that we've seen this type of story done before. We've seen it done before in many other movies. Hell, we saw a lot of it in Garden State, and I think trying to just repeat the same thing you did over and over again, it does get old really fast. And in a film like this, it definitely feels like this movie really feels like it's charted territory we've seen done over and over again. I mean, it's basically about a story about a guy who's trying to figure out what he wants to do for the rest of his life, and so, hey, I'll just go ahead and do this, and just like, it's nothing new, man. I mean, we've seen people do this not just in real life, but also in movies as well. And yeah, that's really the biggest flaw of it overall, is that it's a story we've seen done to death before. There's nothing about it that really makes it stand out or anything unique overall. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's just a film that's been there, done that. I think the actors overall are doing a good enough job in this, and I think Zach Braff is a good director. But I think Garden State did this kind of thing a whole lot better, and I felt like he was trying to recapture that magic over again with this, and it just wasn't there for this one. At least in my personal opinion, it really wasn't. So yeah, it's not a bad movie, just not the movie that I think a lot of people were expecting it to be after what he did with Garden State. I know I was severely let down by it after watching Garden State as many times as I had, because I love that movie a lot. But this, yeah, it just didn't work for me. I think a lot of people, it didn't work for them. But yeah, it's just kind of an underwhelming film overall. Not a bad film, but just definitely a film that disappointed a lot of people, myself included. So, wish I was here. And so with that said, we're going to wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies, and we will wrap it up with 6 big movies to wrap July up, including not only the worst movie I saw that summer, not only the worst movie of the year, not only the worst movie of the decade, the worst movie I have ever seen in my entire effing life. That's Scarlett Johansson starring in Luc Besson's Lucy. I've already done a video covering this overall, so if you want to go check that video out, it's on the channel. But yeah, we're going to talk about that one, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be rough for me to go back and relive that horror again. But there is at least some good news. We do get some good movies. We get Brett Ratner directing Hercules, starring Dwayne Johnson, which is easily the best of the 2 Hercules movies released in 2014. But then again, when you have Rennie Harlin's Legend of Hercules as the other one, it's not really much of a shocker that this Hercules is much better. But we'll also take a look at And So It Goes, which I believe stars Michael Douglas and Diane Keaton. We'll also take a look at A Most Wanted Man, and I don't actually remember who's in that movie, so I'll have to go back and look it up. But we have Gabriel Iglesias in the comedy film The Fluffy Movie, Unity Through Laughter. And then we also have Woody Allen's latest film, Magic in the Moonlight. So 6 films overall to take a look at next time around. We will delve into them on the next episode, so be on the lookout for that tomorrow. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.